The plate shattered against the cafeteria floor at Naval Special Warfare Command, Coronado, California. Monday morning, so 6:30 hours. Senior Chief Marcus Drake stood over the 20-year-old girl, eggs and grease dripping down her apron. "Clean it up, sweetheart. That's all you're good for." Sage Hartley knelt without a word, her hands steady, her breathing controlled. Nobody noticed the scar beneath her sleeve. Nobody knew that this quiet cafeteria worker had more confirmed kills than every man in that room combined. But they were about to find out. If you want to see how this unfolds, subscribe now and follow this story to the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The laughter hit harder than the plate. Sage Hartley felt it wash over her as she knelt on the cold linoleum, picking up pieces of ceramic and scrambled eggs with her bare hands. 37 SEALs and SEAL candidates watched. Not one moved to help. "Faster," Senior Chief Marcus Drake said. His boot tapped the floor inches from her fingers. "I haven't got all day." Sage said nothing. She placed another shard in her palm, careful not to cut herself. Not because she feared pain, because blood would draw questions she couldn't answer. "You know what your problem is?" Drake leaned down close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. "You think you belong here? You don't. Your furniture, your background noise, you're nothing." She kept her eyes on the floor. Her hands never trembled. Petty Officer Kyle Jensen laughed from his seat at the nearest table. 24 years old, Drake's favorite student, built like a linebacker with the ego to match. "Maybe she's deaf, Senior Chief, or just stupid." "Could be both." Drake straightened up, playing to his audience. "Either way, she should know her place by now." Sage finished collecting the debris. She rose slowly, methodically, and walked to the trash can without looking at anyone. The eggs went in. The ceramic pieces followed. She wiped her hands on her apron and returned to the serving line, like nothing had happened, like it always happened. Master Chief Jonas Webb sat in the corner booth, his coffee growing cold. 50 years old, 32 years in the Navy, he'd seen more combat than most of these boys would ever dream of. And right now, he was watching something that didn't make sense. The girl hadn't flinched. Not when the plate hit the ground. Not when Drake stood over her. Not when the entire room laughed at her humiliation. Her heart rate should have been elevated. Her hands should have been shaking. She should have shown something: anger, fear, shame. Instead, she moved like a machine. Precise. Controlled. Empty. Webb had seen that emptiness before. In the eyes of operators who'd been downrange too long. In the faces of snipers who'd watched too many targets drop through their scopes. He'd never seen it in a cafeteria worker. Drake returned to his table, basking in the approval of his students. "That's the problem with letting civilians work on base. No discipline, no respect, no understanding of what we do here." "She's just a server Senior Chief," one of the younger candidates said. "Does it really matter?" Drake's expression hardened. "Everything matters. Every detail, every weakness. You think the enemy cares about your feelings? You think they'll go easy because you're having a bad day?" He jabbed his finger at the serving line where Sage was refilling the coffee. "Weakness is contagious. You let one person slide, everyone slides. That's how units fall apart." Lieutenant Victoria Ashford approached the table. Her tray balanced perfectly, her uniform pressed to razor creases. 31 ambitious, the only female officer in the sniper training program. She'd gotten there by being harder than the men, colder than the instructors, and absolutely ruthless in her politics. "Trouble with the help again?" She sat down next to Drake, her smile thin and knowing. "Same girl. 8 months she's been here, and she still can't get a simple breakfast order right." Some people aren't meant for more. Ashford glanced at Sage with undisguised contempt. At least she knows her place. Most women who come through here have delusions about being equals. Drake nodded approvingly. This was why he liked Ashford. She understood the natural order. Webb watched the exchange with growing unease. Something was wrong here. Something he couldn't quite name. He stood up, leaving his cold coffee behind, and walked toward the serving line. Sage saw him coming. Her eyes tracked his approach without moving her head, a technique so subtle that only another operator would recognize it. Peripheral awareness. Combat scanning. "Morning, Master Chief." Her voice was soft, neutral, professionally pleasant. "Morning." Webb studied her face. Young. 20, maybe 21. Light brown hair pulled back in a regulation ponytail. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing that would draw attention. "You okay?" "I'm fine, Master Chief." That was out of line. What Drake did. Sage's expression didn't change. "He's a senior chief. I'm a civilian contractor. It's not my place to have opinions about his behavior." The words were perfect. The tone was perfect. Everything about her response was exactly what a beaten-down cafeteria worker should say. And that was the problem. "You've been here 8 months," Webb said, keeping his voice casual. "Where'd you work before this?" "Various places, Master Chief. Food service, mostly." "Where?" A pause. Microscopic, almost undetectable, but Webb caught it. "Around." He let the silence stretch. In interrogation, silence was a weapon. Most people rushed to fill it volunteering information they'd never intended to share. Sage just waited. Her eyes steady. Her breathing unchanged. Her hands still. She knew. Webb realized. She knows I'm testing her. "Well," he said finally, "if Drake gives you any more trouble, let me know." "That's very kind, Master Chief. But I can handle it." "I can handle it. Not, 'I'll be fine,' or 'thank you for your concern.' I can handle it." The phrasing of someone accustomed to handling things. Difficult things. Dangerous things. Webb nodded and walked away. His mind racing. When he reached the corridor, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in 3 years. "Personnel records," a voice answered. "How may I help you?" "I need a full background check on a civilian contractor. Name is Hartley, first name Sage, currently assigned to food services at Nisaucho Command Coronado." "I'll pull that up for you, Master Chief." Keyboard clicks. A pause. That's strange. "What? Her file is almost empty. Basic identification, employment, start date, security clearance level. But there's nothing before 8 months ago. No prior work history. No education records. No emergency contacts." Webb's grip tightened on the phone. Nothing at all. It's like she didn't exist before coming here. Ghost. The word surfaced in Webb's mind like a warning buoy. "Can you go deeper?" More clicking. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Master Chief, I can't access this file." "What do you mean you can't access it?" "I mean it's locked. Level 4 clearance required. Maybe higher." Level 4 was reserved for classified operations. Black projects. Assets whose existence was need to know. "Who the hell is this girl?" "Thank you," Webb said. "That's all I need." He hung up and stared at the phone for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back toward the cafeteria. But Sage was already gone. The shooting range hummed with activity. 50 lanes all occupied by candidates running through qualification drills. The crack of rifle fire echoed off concrete walls in a staccato rhythm that never quite settled into predictability. Drake walked the line like a general surveying his troops. His eyes missed nothing, a slightly off stance here, a breath held too long there. He corrected each flaw with the precision of a man who had been teaching this craft for 15 years. "Jensen." His voice cut through the gunfire. "Your trigger pull is garbage. You're anticipating the recoil. Again." Kyle Jensen gritted his teeth and reset his position. His target showed a cluster of shots slightly left of center. Good by most standards. Unacceptable by Drake's. "I want that grouping tight enough to cover with a quarter. You understand me?" "Yes, Senior Chief." Drake moved on his attention, already shifting to the next candidate. He was 3 lanes down when movement at the edge of the range caught his eye. Sage Hartley was walking along the back wall, pushing a cart loaded with ammunition crates. Part of her job delivering supplies to the various training facilities. Invisible work done by invisible people. Drake watched her for a moment. Something about her presence irritated him in a way he couldn't explain. It was like having a mosquito buzzing at the edge of his hearing, insignificant but impossible to ignore. She stopped at the armorer's station and began unloading crates with mechanical efficiency. Each movement was economical, precise, wasting no energy on unnecessary motion. Armorer Second Class Pete Morrison accepted the delivery with a grunt. "Put those on the shelf, 3rd row." Sage complied, but as she passed the weapons rack, she paused. Her head tilted slightly like a dog catching a distant sound. "This rifle." She pointed at an M4 in the middle of the rack. "There's something wrong with it." Morrison looked up from his paperwork. "Excuse me, the barrel. There's a stress fracture near the chamber. You can see it if you look at the angle of light reflection." Morrison's face reddened. "I've been doing this job for 6 years, sweetheart. I think I know. It's going to fail." Sage's voice was calm, almost clinical. "Probably within the first 100 rounds. Possibly sooner. Whoever fires it could be seriously injured." "Are you telling me how to do my job?" "I'm telling you there's a dangerous weapon on your rack." The exchange had drawn attention. Several candidates were watching now, their drills temporarily forgotten. Drake materialized beside them, his expression thunderous. "What's going on here?" "The cafeteria girl thinks she's a weapons expert now." Morrison's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Says this rifle is defective." Drake took the M4 from the rack and examined it. He'd inspected thousands of rifles in his career. This one looked perfectly normal. "There's nothing wrong with this weapon." "There is." Sage didn't back down. "The fracture is microscopic, but it's there. I wouldn't fire it." "You wouldn't fire it." Drake's laugh was sharp, mocking. "When was the last time you fired anything, little girl? Have you ever even held a rifle?" Sage met his eyes. For just a moment, something flickered in her gaze. Something cold, something knowing, and then it was gone. "I've held a few." The answer hung in the air, pregnant with meanings no one could decipher. "Get back to work." Drake thrust the rifle at Morrison. "And you finish your delivery and get out. This isn't a place for civilians to have opinions." Sage nodded once and returned to her cart, but as she wheeled it toward the exit, she spoke without turning around. "Check the rifle, Armorer Morrison, please." Then she was gone. Morrison stared after her, his face a mixture of confusion and offense. Drake clapped him on the shoulder. "Forget it. She's nobody. Just some girl who watches too many movies." But Webb, watching from the observation platform, saw Morrison glance at the rifle, saw the doubt creep into his expression. And later, when he thought no one was looking, Webb saw him take the rifle to the inspection station and examine it under high magnification. The color drained from Morrison's face. He found the fracture. The afternoon brought a different kind of drama. A VIP tour was scheduled, senators, generals, defense contractors being shown the finest training facility in the world. The candidates had been briefed to be on their best behavior. Everything had to be perfect. Sage was assigned to the refreshment station, water, coffee, light snacks for the distinguished visitors as they moved through the facility. Another invisible role. She was refilling the coffee urn when the group arrived. Senator William Morrison led the pack, a heavy man with a politician's smile and a handshake that lingered too long. His son Chad walked beside him, 23 prep school, polished with the arrogant certainty of someone who'd never been told no in his life. Drake greeted them with military precision. "Senator Morrison, welcome to Naval Special Warfare Command. We're honored to have you." "The honor is mine, Senior Chief. My boy here has been talking about joining up. Wanted to see what real warriors look like." Chad Morrison smirked. He was already scanning the room, his eyes landing on anything female and lingering too long. When he spotted Sage at the refreshment station, his smirk widened. "I'll get some water," he told his father. "Be right back." He sauntered over his walk, the practiced swagger of a young man who'd been told his whole life that the world was his to take. "Hey there." Sage looked up. "Would you like some water, sir?" "Water? Sure." He didn't take the glass she offered. Instead, he leaned against the table, positioning himself too close. "You work here on base?" "Yes, sir. Food services." "Nice." His eyes traveled down her body with obvious intent. "You know I'm thinking about enlisting. Could use someone to show me around. Maybe grab dinner tonight." "I'm sorry, sir. I'm not available." "Come on." He stepped closer, his hand reaching out to touch her arm. "Everyone's available for the right." Sage's hand moved. Fast. So fast that Chad didn't register what happened until he was bent over his wrist, locked at an angle that sent lightning bolts of pain up his arm. "Please don't touch me, sir." Her voice hadn't changed. Still soft. Still professional. But her grip was iron. "You're hurting me," Chad gasped. "I know." She held the lock for exactly 2 more seconds, then released him with the same smooth precision. Chad stumbled backward, cradling his wrist, his face twisted with shock and rage. You attacked me!" The room went silent. Every eye turned to the refreshment station. Drake was there in seconds, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. "What happened?" "She assaulted me!" Chad's voice was a whine. "I was just being friendly and she did some kind of... I defended myself." Sage's voice was calm. "He put his hands on me without permission." "She's lying. I barely touched her, and she grabbed my wrist, and his wrist isn't broken." Sage interrupted. "If I'd wanted to break it, I would have. I simply asked him to stop." Drake stared at her. The words registered, but his brain struggled to process them. "If I'd wanted to break it, I would have." Said with absolute certainty. Said like someone who'd broken wrists before. Senator Morrison pushed through the crowd, his face red with alcohol and outrage. "What's going on here? What did you do to my son?" "Senator, I apologize." Drake stepped between them. "This civilian overreacted to what was clearly a misunderstanding. I'll have her removed immediately." "Removed? I want her arrested. She assaulted Chad." "Sir, your son touched me first." Sage's voice cut through the chaos. "I have the right to defend myself." "You're a servant." Senator Morrison's jowls quivered with indignation. "You don't have the right to touch my son." The words landed like a slap. Around the room, expressions shifted. Some uncomfortable, some agreeing, some simply watching. Jensen stepped forward, eager to please. "I saw the whole thing, Senator. She attacked him unprovoked, probably looking for a lawsuit." "That's a lie." The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned. A young female candidate, Petty Officer 3rd Class Maya Rodriguez, stood with her arms crossed. "I saw it too." He grabbed her arm first. She just got him off her. Silence. Senator Morrison's face cycled through several shades of purple. Who is this person who— That's enough. The voice was quiet, but carried the weight of absolute authority. Captain Eleanor Vance stepped into the room. 52 years old. Silver hair cut short. 28 years of service, including 3 combat deployments. The commanding officer of the training facility. Senator, I apologize for the disruption to your tour. Perhaps we should continue to the shooting range. I want this woman fired. That decision will be made through proper channels. Vance's tone made clear that there would be no further discussion. Senior Chief Drake, please escort our guests to the next station. Drake hesitated, torn between the senator's fury and his captain's command. The command won. Right this way, Senator. As the group moved out, Vance turned to Sage. Her eyes were unreadable, but there was something in them, recognition perhaps, or curiosity. Report to my office at 1800. Yes, Captain. Vance left without another word. Sage returned to the coffee urn, her hands steady, her expression unchanged. But Rodriguez caught her eye from across the room and nodded. Thank you, Sage mouthed. Rodriguez just shrugged. Truth is truth. Drake reassigned her to dish duty that afternoon. The industrial kitchen, far from any training areas, far from any VIPs, far from any opportunity to cause more problems. Sage accepted the assignment without complaint. She washed dishes for 4 hours. Plates, trays, pots, pans. The same motions repeated endlessly. Mindless work for a mindless worker. Except Webb was watching. He'd followed her movements all day, tracking her from the cafeteria to the supply run to the VIP incident to here. He'd seen the wrist lock she'd put on Chad Morrison. Recognized it. Krav Maga. Military grade. The exact technique taught to special operations personnel. He waited until she was alone, the other kitchen workers gone for their break, before approaching. That was interesting. Sage looked up from the sink. Master Chief? The thing with the senator's son. Clean technique. Fast. Controlled. He leaned against the counter. Where'd you learn that? Self-defense class. At the community center. Community center. Webb let the lie hang in the air. Which community center teaches Israeli military hand-to-hand combat? Sage's hands went still in the soapy water. I'm not your enemy, Webb said quietly. But I know what I'm looking at. I know you're not what you seem to be. I'm a cafeteria worker, Master Chief. You're a cafeteria worker who can spot a microscopic barrel fracture by eye, who can apply a joint lock faster than any candidate on this base, who has a personnel file that's locked behind level 4 clearance. Webb stepped closer. Who are you? Sage slowly lifted her hands from the water and dried them on her apron. When she looked up at him, something had shifted in her eyes. I'm someone who came here to disappear. Why? Because I couldn't be what I was anymore. And what were you? The silence stretched between them. Webb could hear the drip of the faucet, the distant crack of rifle fire, from the range, the hammering of his own heart. Someone who pulled triggers, Sage said at last. Someone who got very good at ending lives. And then someone who couldn't do it anymore. Webb felt the weight of her words settle over him. He'd known operators who'd burned out, who'd seen too much done, too much lost, too much. Some recovered. Some didn't. What happened? Sage turned back to the sink. Her hands found a plate and began scrubbing mechanically. I lost someone. Someone who mattered. And when I tried to keep going without them, I found out I couldn't. The weapon still works, but the person behind it is broken. Webb thought about his own ghosts. The friends he'd buried. The shots he still heard in his dreams. That doesn't make you broken. Doesn't it? She set the plate in the drying rack. What do you call someone who can't do the one thing they were made for? Human. Sage's hands stopped moving. She didn't turn around, but Webb saw her shoulders tighten. I just want to be invisible, Master Chief. I just want to serve coffee and wash dishes and not have to remember what I used to be. Is that too much to ask? Maybe not. Webb moved toward the door. But people like us don't get to be invisible forever. Eventually the world drags us back. He paused at the threshold. When it does, I'll be here. Then he was gone. Sage stared at the empty doorway for a long moment. Then she picked up another plate and kept washing. At 1800, she reported to Captain Vance's office. The captain was alone, seated behind a desk covered with files and reports. Close the door. Sage complied. Sit. She sat. Vance studied her for a long moment. The silence was different from Webb's not probing, but waiting. The silence of someone who already knew the answers and was simply choosing when to reveal them. The senator is demanding your termination. Possibly criminal charges. I understand, Captain. Do you? Vance leaned forward. Do you understand what happens when a United States senator makes demands? Do you understand the pressure that gets applied? Yes, Captain. I don't think you do. Vance's voice hardened. Because if you did, you would have let that spoiled little bastard put his hands wherever he wanted and complained through proper channels later. That's what a normal civilian would do. Sage said nothing. But you're not a normal civilian, are you? The question hung in the air like a live grenade. Petty Officer 2nd Class Sage Hartley, Vance continued. SEAL Team 3, Buds Class 347, youngest female graduate in program history at age 18, sniper school top of her class, 23 confirmed kills across 3 deployments. Sage's face remained neutral, but her hands gripped the arms of her chair. Operation Nightfall, Yemen, 2024. 14 hours of solo overwatch after your spotter was killed by enemy fire. Vance's voice softened slightly. Your brother, Chief Petty Officer Thomas Hartley. Sage's composure cracked. Just a fraction. Just for a moment. How? I was briefed when you were assigned here. Part of the arrangement. Vance rose from her chair and walked to the window. You wanted to disappear. High Command agreed. A decorated operator psychologically compromised needed somewhere to decompress. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere safe. And this was the safest place you could think of, a base full of SEALs. Hiding in plain sight. No one looks for a wolf among the sheep when the wolves are all out hunting. Vance turned back to face her. The question is, how long can you keep pretending to be a sheep? Sage met her eyes. As long as I need to. Even with Drake targeting you, even with senators screaming for your head. They don't know who I am. No, they don't. Vance returned to her desk. But secrets have a way of surfacing. Pressure has a way of building. And wolves have a way of biting when they're cornered. She pulled a file from her drawer and slid it across the desk. The senator's complaint. I'm required to conduct an investigation. Officially, you're on administrative leave pending resolution. Sage stared at the file. 8 months of carefully constructed invisibility threatened by one entitled boy who couldn't keep his hands to himself. And unofficially, Vance smiled. It was a small smile, almost invisible, but it was there. Unofficially, I saw the security footage. The Morrison boy grabbed you first. Your response was proportionate and controlled. Far more controlled than he deserved. So I'm not being terminated. You're being protected. Vance leaned back in her chair. For now, but I can only protect you if you stay invisible. No more incidents, no more displays of skill, no more making entitled senators' sons cry. Sage nodded. Understood, Captain. Do you? Vance's eyes were sharp. Because I know what it's like to hide who you are. I did it for 20 years before I could be open about being a woman in this world. The mask wears on you. Eventually something has to give. It won't. It always does. Vance stood signaling the end of the meeting. The question isn't whether you'll be exposed, petty officer. The question is whether you'll be ready when it happens. Sage rose from her chair. At the door, she paused. Captain, why are you telling me all this? Vance was silent for a long moment. Because I lost someone too. A long time ago. And I know what it's like to try to outrun grief. She looked away. You can't run forever, Hartley. Sooner or later you have to turn around and face it. Sage walked out into the evening air. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Somewhere in the distance, a drill sergeant was shouting commands. Somewhere closer, waves were breaking against the shore. She stood there for a long moment, breathing the salt air, feeling the wind on her face. Then she walked back to her quarters to prepare for tomorrow. The investigation would begin. Drake would double his efforts to destroy her. The senator would apply pressure. And somewhere in the depths of her sealed file, her past waited like a loaded gun. She had wanted to be invisible, but the world was conspiring to drag her back into the light. And deep down in the broken places, she tried not to acknowledge a part of her, wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was ready to stop hiding. 3 days passed. 3 days of washing dishes, serving food, and pretending she didn't feel Drake's eyes following her everywhere she went. The investigation moved slowly. Senator Morrison called twice a day. Captain Vance deflected with bureaucratic precision, and Sage stayed invisible exactly as she'd been told. But Drake wasn't satisfied with watching. I want everything on her, he told Jensen in his office. Where she lives, where she goes after work, who she talks to. I want to know what she eats for breakfast and what time she goes to sleep. Jensen shifted uncomfortably. Senior Chief, isn't that a little extreme? She's just a cafeteria worker. Is she? Drake pulled up her personnel file on his computer. Look at this. 8 months of employment. No prior work history. No education records. No family contacts. No social media. Nothing. Maybe she's just private. Nobody's this private. Drake slammed his hand on the desk. She put a joint lock on a senator's son like she was opening a door. She spotted a barrel fracture that our armorer missed. She moves like she's constantly scanning for threats. He leaned forward. That's not a cafeteria worker. That's something else. Jensen looked at the nearly empty file. What do you want me to do? Follow her. Tonight. Find out where she goes, what she does. And Jensen. Yes, Senior Chief? Don't let her see you. Jensen nodded and left. Drake stared at the file for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone and dialed. Lieutenant Ashford, I need a favor. Sage felt the surveillance before she saw it. It was an instinct developed over 3 deployments, a 6th sense for when eyes were on you. Walking back to her quarters that evening, she catalogued the signs without conscious thought. The car that had been parked in the same spot for 2 hours. The figure in her peripheral vision who stopped when she stopped. The reflection in the window that showed someone matching her pace. Amateur, she thought. Obvious. Sloppy. She could lose him in 30 seconds. Duck into a building exit, through a service entrance loop, back through the parallel street. basic counter-surveillance that any operator learned in their first month. But that would raise questions. That would confirm suspicions. So instead, she walked straight to her quarters, unlocked the door, and went inside. Let them watch. Let them see a boring girl living a boring life. She made dinner, read a book, turned off the lights at 2200. And at 0300, when Jensen finally gave up and drove away, she allowed herself to breathe. Morning brought new challenges. Sage arrived at the cafeteria to find her station reassigned. Instead of the serving line, she'd been moved to inventory, a windowless storage room in the back of the building counting cans and boxes for 8 hours. Drake's doing, isolating her, breaking her down. She accepted the reassignment without complaint and spent the morning surrounded by industrial-sized containers of green beans and tomato sauce. Mindless work, invisible work. Perfect. Until Lieutenant Ashford found her. "So this is where they put you?" Ashford leaned against the doorframe, her arms crossed, her smile sharp. "Quite a step down from serving coffee to senators." Sage continued counting cans. "Lieutenant, I heard about your little incident, assaulting a VIP guest. Very impressive. I defended myself. Is that what you call it?" Ashford stepped into the room, letting the door close behind her. "Because from where I stand, it looks like a civilian who doesn't know her place putting hands on someone important." Sage marked her count on the clipboard. "Is there something I can help you with, Lieutenant?" "Actually, yes." Ashford's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm curious about you. A woman working in a man's world. I understand that. I've lived it my whole career. I'm sure you have. But here's the thing." Ashford moved closer. "I earned my place. Every promotion, every assignment I fought for. I didn't take shortcuts. I didn't use tricks." Sage looked up. "What tricks? That wrist lock, that weapons inspection, whatever game you're playing." Ashford's eyes were cold. "I don't know what you're doing here, but I know you're not what you pretend to be. And when I figure out the truth, I'm going to make sure everyone knows." "There's no game, Lieutenant. I'm just a cafeteria worker." "Right." Ashford smiled without warmth. "We'll see." She left without another word. Sage stared at the closed door for a long moment. Then she returned to counting cans, her hands steady, her mind racing. The pressure was building. Drake's obsession, Ashford's suspicion, Jensen's surveillance. They were circling closer, sensing weakness, smelling blood. How long before someone found the truth? How long before her carefully constructed invisibility shattered? Webb found her during lunch break. She was sitting alone behind the supply building, eating a sandwich she'd made that morning. The only place on base where no one looked for her. "Mind if I join you?" Sage shrugged. Webb sat down beside her, his own lunch in hand. "I pulled some strings," he said quietly. "Your file. The locked one." Her sandwich stopped halfway to her mouth. "I couldn't access it, but I found someone who could tell me what level it's sealed at. And us level 5, compartmentalized special access." Webb unwrapped his sandwich. "You know what that means? It means someone doesn't want people asking questions. It means you're one of the most protected assets I've ever encountered." Webb took a bite, chewed slowly. "Only 2 types of people get that level of classification: intelligence operatives and Tier 1 special operators." Sage said nothing. "You're not intelligence. You don't have the look." Webb studied her profile. "Which leaves option 2. And considering we're sitting at Niasablau Command surrounded by SEALs, the math isn't hard. You shouldn't be digging into this, Master Chief." "Probably not." He finished his sandwich. "But I've been doing this job for 32 years. I've trained thousands of operators. I know what they look like, how they move, how they think." He turned to face her. And I'm looking at one right now. Sage crumpled her sandwich wrapper. What do you want? I want to understand why you're hiding, and I want to help if I can. You can't help? No one can. Try me. She was quiet for a long moment. The wind carried the distant sound of drill commands, the eternal rhythm of military training. I told you I lost someone. Your brother, Thomas Hartley, Chief Petty Officer, SEAL Team 3. Webb's voice was gentle. I looked him up, the records that weren't sealed anyway. Sage's composure cracked. Her hands trembled. He was my spotter, my teacher, my best friend. The words came slowly, painfully. We were on Overwatch in Yemen. 14 hours covering an extraction. The team was pinned down trying to get a CIA asset out of a compound. Webb listened in silence. Hour 6, they got our position. Mortar fire. Thomas pushed me out of the way. Her voice broke. He took the shrapnel that should have killed me. And you finished the mission. I finished the mission. The words were hollow. 14 hours alone. 23 kills. The team got out. The asset got out. Everyone got out, except Thomas. That's not your fault, isn't it? She finally looked at him. I was the shooter. He was the spotter. My job was to take the shots. His job was to watch my back. But I should have seen the incoming fire. I should have reacted faster. I should have... You should have been human, Webb interrupted. You should have been imperfect. You should have been exactly what you were, a young operator doing an impossible job in impossible conditions. Tell that to my brother. I would if I could. Webb's voice hardened. But he's gone and you're still here. And I guarantee he didn't push you out of the way so you could spend the rest of your life washing dishes and feeling sorry for yourself. Sage's head snapped up. Anger flashed in her eyes. You don't know anything about what he wanted. I know he was a SEAL. I know he trained you. I know he believed in you enough to make you his spotter. Webb held her gaze. And I know that operators don't sacrifice themselves for people they think are going to waste the gift. The anger faded. Something else took its place. Something raw. Something wounded. I can't do it anymore, she whispered. I can't look through a scope and pull the trigger. Every time I try, I see his face. Every time I close my eyes, I hear his voice. Then don't do it for yourself. Webb stood up. Do it for him. Do it because he believed you could. Do it because there are people out there who need what you can do. He walked away, leaving her alone with her ghosts. The next morning brought the weapons qualification drill. Every candidate on base running through standardized shooting tests. Scores recorded, rankings posted. Drake's domain. Sage was assigned to ammunition distribution. Carting boxes of rounds from the armory to the range, keeping the lanes supplied. Invisible work. She was on her 3rd trip when she noticed Petty Officer Rodriguez struggling. The young woman stood at lane 15, her rifle shaking in her hands. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the morning cool. Her first 3 shots had missed the target entirely. Come on, Rodriguez, Drake prowled behind her. My grandmother shoots better than that, and she's been dead for 10 years. Rodriguez tried again. Missed. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Drake's voice carried across the range. This is why women don't belong in combat. Too emotional. Too weak. Can't handle the pressure. Sage stopped pushing her cart. Her hands gripped the handle until her knuckles went white. Rodriguez fired again. The shot went wide. That's it. Drake grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. You're done. Fail. Pack your bags and go back to whatever beauty school rejected you. Senior Chief, please. Rodriguez's voice cracked. One more chance. One more chance. Drake laughed. You've had 5 chances, You failed all of them. You're not SEAL material. You never were." Rodriguez's eyes filled with tears. Sage moved. She didn't think, didn't calculate. Her body simply responded to something deeper than conscious thought. "Her stance is wrong." Every head turned. Drake's face contorted with fury. "What did you say?" "Her stance." Sage walked toward lane 15, leaving her cart behind. Her feet are too close together. She's leaning back instead of into the weapon, and she's holding her breath instead of using respiratory pause. Drake stepped toward her, his finger jabbing. "Who the hell do you think you are?" "Someone who knows what I'm looking at." Sage stopped in front of Rodriguez. "Square your shoulders, feet shoulder-width apart. Weight on the balls of your feet." Rodriguez stared at her, caught between hope and confusion. "Don't listen to her." Drake grabbed Sage's arm. "She's a cafeteria worker. She doesn't know. Let go of me, Senior Chief." The words were quiet, but something in them made Drake's hand open involuntarily. Sage turned back to Rodriguez. "Try again. This time breathe normally. Pull the trigger between breaths when your body is naturally still." Rodriguez looked at Drake, looked at Sage. Then she raised her rifle. Breathe in, breathe out. Between breaths, the shot hit center mass. A murmur rippled through the watching candidates. "Again," Sage said. Another shot. Another hit. Again. 3 more rounds. 3 more hits. Rodriguez lowered her rifle. Her face transformed. "I did it. I actually did it." Drake's face had gone purple. His hands clenched into fists. "You!" His voice was a growl. "In my office. Now!" He stormed off the range. Rodriguez grabbed Sage's hand. "Thank you. I don't know how to." "Don't thank me yet." Sage squeezed her hand briefly. "This isn't over." She followed Drake toward the command building, aware of every eye watching her go. Drake's office door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. "Who do you think you are?" He paced like a caged animal. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Sage stood at attention, her face neutral. "I was trying to help Senior Chief." "Help? Help?" He laughed, the sound sharp and ugly. "You undermined my authority in front of my entire unit. You made me look like a fool. I corrected a stance error. Nothing more." "Nothing more." Drake stopped pacing. He turned to face her, something dangerous in his eyes. "Let me tell you something, little girl. I've been training SEALs for 15 years. I've produced more operators than anyone in this command. I know what makes a warrior." He stepped closer. "And you're nobody. You're a ghost with an empty file and too many secrets. You think you're special. You think you know something the rest of us don't." Sage met his eyes. "I think I know how to shoot." Drake went still. "Prove it." "Excuse me." "You heard me." His smile was predatory. "You want to play instructor? Fine. Let's see what you've got. Shooting competition. You and me. Right now, in front of everyone." "That's not necessary." "Oh, but it is." Drake opened his office door. "Jensen, get everyone back to the range. The cafeteria girl wants to show us how it's done." Jensen appeared in the doorway, his face eager. "Seriously? Seriously, let's see what she's really made of." Word spread fast. By the time they reached the range, over 50 people had gathered. Candidates, instructors, support staff. Even Webb was there, his expression unreadable. Drake handed Sage an M4. "Standard qualification course, 50 rounds. Let's see who knows what they're doing." Sage took the rifle. It felt familiar in her hands. Too familiar. "Ladies first," Drake smirked. She stepped up to the firing line. 50 yards. Iron sights. 10 rounds per target, 5 targets. She raised the rifle, settled into her stance, and froze. Thomas's face flashed in her mind. The sound of mortar fire, the wet impact of shrapnel hitting flesh, his body falling. Her hands began to shake. "What's the matter?" Drake's voice dripped with satisfaction. "Performance anxiety." Sage's finger touched the trigger. Her breathing was wrong. Too fast, too shallow. She fired. The shot missed the target completely. Laughter rippled through the crowd. "This is your weapons expert," Jensen crowed. "She can't even hit paper?" Sage fired again. Missed, again missed. Her grouping was scattered across a 6-foot radius, not a single round on target. Drake was practically glowing. "I think we've seen enough." But Webb had noticed something. He walked past the 50-yard targets, past the 100-yard line, past the 200-yard markers. At 300 yards, he stopped. 5 holes, grouped so tightly they nearly touched. She wasn't missing. She was shooting something else. "Master Chief," one of the candidates had followed him. "What are you looking at?" Webb pointed. The candidate's jaw dropped. "Senior Chief." His voice cracked. "You need to see this." Drake stormed over, still riding his wave of triumph. Then he saw the target. "That's..." Jensen's voice trailed off. "That's impossible." 300 yards, Webb said quietly. "Iron sights, a rifle designed for accurate shooting at 50. He turned to look at Sage. Only one type of person makes shots like that. Drake's face had drained of color. "She got lucky. It's a fluke. 5 rounds in a pattern smaller than my fist at 3 times the designed range." Webb shook his head. "That's not luck. That's training. The kind of training that takes years. The kind of training that..." "Senior Chief Drake." When Captain Vance's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd, everyone snapped to attention. Vance walked slowly toward the firing line, her face carved from stone. She looked at the 50-yard target with its empty paper, then at Drake, then at the distant 300-yard target. "Would someone like to explain what's going on here?" Drake found his voice. "A marksmanship demonstration, Captain. The civilian wanted to prove she knew how to shoot." "And did she..." Drake hesitated. 300 yards, ma'am," Webb said. "Iron sights. 5-round grouping you could cover with a quarter." Vance's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. "Everyone back to regular training, now." The crowd dispersed quickly, but the whispers had already started. By evening, everyone on base would know. Vance waited until only she, Drake, Webb, and Sage remained. "Senior Chief Drake, my office, 1 hour." "Captain, I can explain. 1 hour." She turned to Sage. Her voice dropped so only Sage could hear. "I told you to stay invisible." "I tried." "Try harder." Vance's eyes were hard. "Because the next time I might not be able to protect you." She walked away. Drake stared at Sage with something new in his expression. Not anger anymore. Something closer to fear. "I don't know who you are," he said slowly. "But I'm going to find out. And when I do, I'm going to destroy you." He left without waiting for a response. Webb approached Sage. His face was troubled. "That was one hell of a shot. I shouldn't have done it." "Probably not," he paused. "But it was beautiful." Sage looked at the distant target barely visible against the afternoon sky. "Thomas taught me that shot when I was 17. Said I was a natural." Her voice cracked. "He said I could have been the best. Could have been..." She handed him the rifle. That's the first time I've fired a weapon in 14 months, Master Chief. And every single time I pulled the trigger, I saw his face. She walked away before he could respond. But Webb stood there for a long time, staring at that impossible grouping, wondering what it would take to heal a broken warrior. And knowing that whatever was coming next, nothing would ever be the same. The whispers followed Sage everywhere now. 300 yards, iron sights, impossible grouping. She heard them in the cafeteria, in the corridors, in the supply rooms where she tried to disappear. The story had grown with each retelling until she'd supposedly hit targets at 500 yards blindfolded while reciting the Constitution backward. But the truth was dangerous enough. Drake had gone quiet. Too quiet. He watched her from a distance, now calculating planning. Sage knew that look. She'd seen it in the eyes of predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The moment came on a Thursday morning. "All personnel to this main training yard." The announcement crackled through every speaker on base. "Immediate assembly. All personnel." Sage set down the inventory clipboard she'd been holding. Her instincts screamed warning. This was it. The training yard was packed. Over 200 people, candidates, instructors, support staff, officers. Even Captain Vance stood on the observation platform, her expression unreadable. Drake stood at the center, flanked by Jensen and Ashford. His smile was the smile of a man holding a winning hand. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "As you know, recent events have raised questions about the competence of our support staff, specifically whether certain individuals are qualified to offer opinions on military matters." His eyes found Sage in the crowd. "So today we're going to settle this once and for all. A practical demonstration. Combat qualification drills open to all personnel." His smile widened. "Including civilians." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Any civilian who believes they have something to contribute is welcome to participate. After all, if someone thinks they can teach SEALs how to shoot, they should be able to prove it. He was staring directly at her now. "What do you say, Miss Hartley Care, to show us what you've got?" Every eye turned to Sage. She stood frozen, her mind racing through options. Refuse and Drake wins. Accept, and she exposes herself further. There was no good choice. "I'll do it." The words came from somewhere deep, somewhere that remembered what it felt like to stand instead of kneel. Drake's smile flickered. He hadn't expected her to accept. "Excellent. Let's see what a cafeteria worker can do." They started with basic drills, rifle assembly, which Sage completed in 12 seconds fast, but not impossibly so. Target acquisition at 50 yards, where she deliberately spread her grouping just enough to look competent rather than exceptional. Drake watched with growing frustration. She was sandbagging, and they both knew it. "Let's make this interesting," he announced. "Close quarters combat demonstration, 2-on-1 drill. Jensen, Ashford, you're with me." The crowd shifted uneasily. "Senior Chief." Webb stepped forward. "That's not standard protocol for civilian participation." "Neither is having civilians critique military operations." Drake's voice was hard. "If she wants to play soldier, she can play soldier." Jensen and Ashford moved to flank Sage, their expressions eager. "Rules are simple," Drake continued. "Subdue the opponent. Any questions?" Sage looked at the two operators circling her. Jensen was bigger, stronger, but telegraphed his movements. Ashford was faster, more precise, but overconfident. Neither was Thomas. Neither had ever faced what she'd faced. "No questions," Sage said quietly. Jensen moved first. His fist came in hard and fast, aimed at her midsection. Sage stepped offline, redirecting his momentum past her. Her elbow found his kidney on the way by not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to make him stumble. Ashford attacked from behind, going for a chokehold. Sage dropped her center of gravity, rotating her hips. and Ashford suddenly found herself flying over Sage's shoulder to land hard on the training mat. 3 seconds. Both opponents down. The yard went silent. Jensen scrambled to his feet, his face red with humiliation. Lucky shot. He charged again, this time with Ashford coordinating, a pincer movement attacking from both sides simultaneously. Sage flowed between them like water, blocking, redirecting, never striking with force, always moving. She put Ashford between herself and Jensen. Used Jensen's momentum to send him stumbling into Ashford-created space, and dissolved attacks with an economy of motion that spoke of thousands of hours of training. 12 seconds. Both down again. What the hell? Jensen gasped from the ground. Drake's face had gone pale. Get up, both of you. Again. Senior Chief. Webb tried to intervene. I said again. They attacked together more desperately this time. All technique abandoned, replaced by raw aggression and wounded pride. Sage stopped playing defense. Her palm strike caught Jensen in the solar plexus, dropping him to his knees. Her foot swept Ashford's legs, and a controlled descent put the lieutenant flat on her back. She finished with a knee on Jensen's chest, and her hand positioned above Ashford's throat. Yield, she said quietly. Neither moved. I said yield. We yield, Ashford gasped. Sage released them both and stepped back. Her breathing was barely elevated. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then Drake crossed the distance between them in 3 angry strides. His hand shot out, grabbing the front of her uniform. Who are you? He snarled. Who the hell are you? Let go of me. Not until you answer my... He yanked, and Sage's uniform shirt tore. The sound of ripping fabric cut through the tension like a gunshot. And then the silence became absolute. Because there exposed on her right shoulder was a tattoo that every person in that yard would recognize for the rest of their lives. A golden eagle. Wings spread wide, clutching a trident in one talon and a flintlock pistol in the other. Surrounded by an anchor. The Navy SEAL Trident. Below it, in stark black letters, Team 3, and below that, a symbol that only a handful of people in the entire military would understand, a Black Hawk wings, folded the mark of Devgru sniper cadre. Jensen made a sound like a wounded animal. Webb's hand rose to his forehead in an automatic salute, his body responding before his mind could catch up. Holy! Drake's grip went slack, his face drained of all color. That's, he whispered. That's impossible. Actually, Captain Vance's voice carried across the yard as she descended from the observation platform. It's very possible. She walked through the crowd which parted before her like water before a ship's bow. Her eyes never left Sage. Petty Officer 2nd Class Sage Hartley. SEAL Team 3. Bud ES Class 347. Youngest female graduate in program history at age 18. The murmurs began. Disbelief. Shock. Wonder. Sniper school top of her class. 23 confirmed kills across 3 deployments. Drake's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Operation Nightfall. Yemen, 2024. Vance's voice softened. 14 hours of solo overwatch after her spotter was killed by enemy fire. Her brother, Chief Petty Officer Thomas Hartley. Sage's composure cracked. A tremor passed through her body. She held that position alone, for 14 hours, with a punctured lung and 2 broken ribs. She completed the mission. She saved the extraction team. She saved the asset. Vance stopped directly in front of Drake. She earned that trident more than most men who wear it. Rodriguez had tears streaming down her face, I knew it, she whispered. I knew there was something. Corporal Aidan Brooks, a young candidate who'd been watching from the edge of the crowd, fell to his knees. She helped me, he choked out. Last week, I was having a panic attack and she knew exactly what to say. Of course she did. Webb's voice was thick with emotion. She's been there. She understands. Drake finally found words. This has to be some kind of mistake. She's 20 years old. She's a cafeteria worker. She's a decorated combat veteran. Vance cut him off. A woman who has done more for this country in her 20 years than you will in your entire career. I don't believe it. Then believe this. Vance pulled a file from under her arm, the file that had been locked behind Level 5 clearance. Operation Nightfall, classified above your pay grade, but I've been authorized to share the summary. She opened the file. June 14th, 2024. SEAL Team 3 deployed to Yemen to extract a captured CIA operative from a hostile compound. Petty Officer Sage Hartley and her spotter Chief Petty Officer Thomas Hartley provided overwatch from a position 2 kilometers away. Sage closed her eyes. The memories crashed over her like waves. Hour 6. Their position was compromised. Mortar fire. Chief Petty Officer Hartley pushed his sister out of the impact zone and took the full force of the shrapnel. Vance's voice wavered. He died in her arms. Someone in the crowd was crying. Maybe several people. Petty Officer Hartley had a punctured lung and 2 broken ribs. She had every reason to abandon her position to call for immediate extraction. No one would have blamed her. Vance looked at Sage with something approaching reverence. Instead, she stayed for 14 more hours. She eliminated 23 enemy combatants who were attempting to reach the extraction team. She maintained her position through a sandstorm, through enemy counter-sniper fire, through blood loss and shock and unimaginable grief. She saved 12 lives that day, Webb added quietly. 12 operators and the CIA asset. All because she wouldn't abandon her post. Drake had backed away several steps. His face was the color of ash. Senior Chief Drake. Vance's voice could have frozen fire. You just assaulted a Bronze Star recipient, a 3-time Purple Heart holder, the only woman in the history of naval special warfare to complete the DevGru sniper qualification course. I didn't know. No, you didn't. Vance stepped closer. You didn't know, and you didn't care. You saw a young woman in a cafeteria uniform, and you decided she was beneath you. You decided she was nothing. Drake's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. How many confirmed kills do you have, Senior Chief? 47. Vance turned to Sage. And you, Petty Officer Hartley? Sage was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but carried to every corner of the yard. I don't count. Why not? Because they were people. She finally opened her eyes. Every one of them was someone's son, someone's brother, someone's father. They were people who made choices that put them in my crosshairs, but they were still people. She looked directly at Drake. I don't celebrate killing. I carry it. Every single one. The moral weight of her words settled over the assembly like a blanket. Jensen fell to his knees. I challenged a SEAL to a combat drill, he whispered. I challenged a SEAL sniper to... Oh God. Ashford had gone pale. I tried to intimidate her. I threatened her. She couldn't finish. This is exactly my point, Sage said, and everyone went still. She looked around at the gathered faces, the shock, the shame, the admiration, the tears. You treated me the way you did because you thought I was nobody, because you thought I was invisible, beneath your notice. She paused. But what about the actual cafeteria workers? What about the people who serve your food every day, and clean your barracks and maintain your equipment? She stepped forward, her voice gaining strength. Do they deserve your cruelty? Do they deserve to be humiliated and mocked and treated like they don't matter? Silence. I'm not special because I can shoot. I'm not special because I have a trident on my shoulder. I'm special because I chose to serve just like everyone else who puts on a uniform. Her eyes swept the crowd. The cook who feeds you breakfast chose to serve. The mechanic who maintains your vehicles chose to serve. The janitor who cleans your facilities chose to serve. She pointed at Rodriguez. She chose to serve, and you were ready to throw her away because she had a bad day on the range. Drake couldn't meet her eyes. Respect isn't about what someone can do to you, Sage continued. It's not about rank or ribbons or how many people you've killed. Respect is about how you treat people who can't fight back, who you choose to be when you think no one important is watching. I'm sorry. Drake's voice was barely audible. You didn't know I was a SEAL, Sage cut him off. But that's the point. You should have treated me with dignity regardless. You should have treated everyone with dignity. She took a breath. That's what real warriors do. Captain Vance stepped forward. Senior Chief Marcus Drake, you are hereby relieved of duty pending investigation for assault on a superior petty officer, conduct unbecoming, and creating a hostile work environment. Drake's face crumpled. Captain, please. My career. Your career ended the moment you decided that cruelty was leadership. Vance nodded to the MPs, who had materialized at the edge of the crowd. Escort Senior Chief Drake to the detention facility. As they led him away, Drake looked back at Sage one final time. Whatever he saw in her eyes made him stumble. Jensen was next. Petty Officer Jensen, you are under arrest for participation in harassment and assault. I was just following orders. Jensen's voice cracked. I didn't know who she was. That, Sage said quietly, is exactly the problem. The MPs took him away. Ashford stood rigid, waiting for her turn. Lieutenant Ashford, Vance's voice was ice. Your conduct will be reviewed. Consider yourself on administrative leave effective immediately. Ashford nodded once sharply and walked away without looking back. Webb approached Sage, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Senior Chief Hartley. Master Chief, please don't. Senior Chief Hartley. He drew himself to attention and rendered a salute so crisp it could cut glass. It is an honor. One by one, every service member in the yard followed suit. Candidates, instructors, officers, support staff. 200 people standing at attention, saluting a 20-year-old woman who had wanted nothing more than to be invisible. Sage felt something break inside her. Not the broken thing she'd been carrying since Yemen, something else. Something older. The wall she'd built between herself and the world. Tears spilled down her cheeks. At ease, she managed. Please, at ease. The salutes dropped, but no one moved away. Rodriguez pushed through the crowd and threw her arms around Sage. Thank you, she sobbed, for everything, for standing up for me, for showing me what's possible. Others followed. Brooks, the young candidate who'd been struggling with PTSD. Morrison, the armorer, who'd doubted her about the barrel fracture. Dozens of faces, some she recognized, some she didn't, all wanting to express something words couldn't capture. Webb waited until the crowd thinned. Thomas would be proud, he said softly. You know that, right? Sage wiped her eyes. I don't know anything anymore. Then know this. He put a hand on her shoulder. What you did today, not the fighting, not the shooting, but the speaking, that was the bravest thing I've seen in 32 years of service. I just told the truth. Sometimes the truth is the hardest shot to make. He squeezed her shoulder. Your brother taught you well. Sage looked at the dispersing crowd at the yard, where her secret had been ripped away at the sky that suddenly seemed bigger than it had that morning. What happens now? Now, Webb smiled. Now you stop hiding. Now you figure out who you are when you're not trying to be invisible. And if I don't know, then you'll learn. He stepped back. That's what warriors do. We adapt, we overcome, we find new battles to fight. His smile softened. You've got a lot of fight left in you, Senior Chief. Time to figure out what you want to fight for. He walked away, leaving her alone in the center of the yard. Alone, but not empty. For the first time in 14 months, Sage felt something other than grief. She felt possibility. Captain Vance found her there an hour later. I should be angry with you, Vance said. I told you to stay invisible. I tried. I know. Vance stood beside her. But some people aren't meant for shadows. Some people are meant to stand in the light whether they want to or not. Sage said nothing. I have an offer for you. Official this time. Vance pulled out a folder. We're restructuring the sniper training program. We need a lead instructor who understands that marksmanship is only part of the equation, someone who can teach discipline, character, restraint. You want me to teach. I want you to lead. Vance handed her the folder. Think about it. No pressure. Take whatever time you need. She turned to leave. Captain? Vance stopped. My brother used to say that the hardest shot isn't the one you take. It's the one you don't take. Sage looked at the folder in her hands. I think I finally understand what he meant. And what did he mean? Sage was quiet for a long moment. He meant that real strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you choose to protect. She looked up. I think I'm ready to start protecting again. Vance nodded slowly. Good, because there are people out there who need what you can teach them. She paused. And there are people who need what you can do. Something in her tone made Sage's instincts prickle. What do you mean? Let's just say that your file wasn't unsealed by accident. Vance's expression was unreadable. There are people watching Petty Officer Hartley. People who've been waiting for you to be ready. Ready for what? That's a conversation for another day. Vance started walking. For now, rest. Heal. Figure out who you want to be. She paused at the edge of the yard. And Sage, yes, Captain, welcome back. Sage stood alone as the sun began to set, the folder clutched in her hands, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer. Somewhere in the distance, a drill sergeant was calling cadence. Somewhere closer, waves were breaking against the shore. And somewhere deep inside her, in the place where her brother's voice still echoed, something was waking up. Something that had been sleeping for 14 months. Something that wasn't finished yet. 3 weeks changed everything. Sage no longer wore the cafeteria uniform. Captain Vance had arranged temporary quarters in the officers' building while the official paperwork processed. She had an office now small, but private, with a window that overlooked the training yard, where her world had shattered and rebuilt itself. But she hadn't accepted the instructor position yet. Every morning she sat at her desk and stared at the folder. Every evening she set it aside unopened. The decision felt too big, too permanent, too much like admitting that the old Sage, the invisible one, the broken one, was truly gone. Webb found her there on a Tuesday morning, coffee in hand. Still haven't opened it. Still thinking. He set the coffee on her desk. You've been thinking for 3 weeks. At some point, thinking becomes hiding. I'm not hiding. Aren't you? Webb settled into the chair across from her. You've got a chance to do something meaningful, to teach the next generation what real strength looks like, and instead you're sitting in an office staring at a piece of paper. It's not that simple. Explain it to me. Sage pushed the folder away. Teaching means demonstrating. Demonstrating means shooting. Shooting means... She trailed off. Seeing Thomas. She nodded. Webb was quiet for a moment. When I was in Fallujah, I lost 3 men in a single day. IED. They were in the vehicle behind mine. I heard it happen, turned around, and there was nothing left but smoke and screaming. Sage looked up. For 2 years after that, I couldn't ride in a convoy. Every time I heard an engine, I'd freeze. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. He took a sip of his coffee. You know what helped? What? Driving. Not riding, driving. Taking control. Putting my hands on the wheel and deciding where we went. How fast, when to stop. He set down the cup. You can't outrun grief, Sage. But you can learn to carry it differently. And if I can't, then you can't. But you won't know until you try. He stood up. There's someone waiting to see you, in the training yard. I think you should talk to her. Who? Someone who needs to hear what you have to say. He left without explaining further. Sage found Rodriguez standing alone at the firing range, her rifle clutched in white-knuckled hands. Petty officer. Rodriguez spun around. Her eyes were red. Senior Chief, I wasn't sure you'd come. Webb said someone needed to talk. I don't want to bother you. I know you've got a lot going on. You're not bothering me. Sage walked closer. What's wrong? Rodriguez looked at the rifle in her hands. I've been here for an hour, trying to shoot. I qualified last week, thanks to you, but now I keep thinking about what happened. What everyone said. How they treated you. How does that affect your shooting? It makes me wonder if I should even be here. Rodriguez's voice cracked. If they could treat you like that, you a decorated SEAL. What chance do I have? I'm nobody. I'm just some girl who thought she could be a warrior. Sage took the rifle from her hands. Sit down. Rodriguez sat. When I was 18 years old, I walked into Bud's knowing that half the men there wanted me to fail. Not because I wasn't capable, but because I was female. Because my presence threatened something they believed about themselves. How did you get through it? I stopped trying to prove them wrong. Sage set the rifle aside. See, here's what nobody tells you. If you spend your whole life trying to prove you belong, you'll never feel like you do. The validation has to come from inside. But how? You ask yourself one question every morning. Did I give everything I had today, not compared to anyone else, not measured against their expectations, just you alone with your effort? Sage met her eyes. And if the answer is yes, then you belong, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Rodriguez wiped her eyes. I've wanted this my whole life, to serve, to matter, and then they made me feel like I was nothing. They were wrong. But what if they're right? What if I'm not strong enough? Sage picked up the rifle and handed it back to her. Strength isn't about never falling down. It's about getting up every single time you do. And you're still here, Maya. After everything Drake said, everything he did, you're still here. That's strength. Rodriguez looked at the weapon in her hands. How did you do it? She whispered. 14 hours alone. Your brother dead. How did you keep going? Sage was quiet for a long moment. I didn't keep going for myself. I kept going for him. For the team. For the people counting on me to do my job. She paused. When you find something worth fighting for, something bigger than your own pain, you'd be surprised what you can endure. What was it for you? Thomas. Sage's voice softened. He was the best person I ever knew. He taught me everything, not just shooting, but who I wanted to be. And when he died, I had a choice. Give up and let his sacrifice mean nothing, or finish what we started. So you finished it. I finished it. Sage looked at the distant targets. But then I ran. For 14 months I hid from everything that reminded me of him. I thought if I became invisible, the pain would stop. Did it? No. Pain doesn't work like that. You can't run from grief. It follows you. The only way out is through. She turned back to Rodriguez. That's what I'm still learning. How to carry him with me instead of running from his memory. Rodriguez stood up slowly. I want to be like you. Not the shooting, not the medals. The other part. The part that keeps going. Then start now. Sage nodded toward the firing line. One shot at a time. One day at a time. And when you fall down, because you will, you get up. That's all any of us can do. Rodriguez approached the line. She raised her rifle, steadied her breathing, and fired. Center, mass. She looked back at Sage with tears streaming down her face. I did it. You always could. You just needed to believe it. The door to Sage's office was open when she returned. Jensen sat inside, handcuffs gone, but shoulders hunched. His face was pale, haggard, the face of a man who'd spent 3 weeks staring at the ruins of everything he thought he knew. They let you out, Sage said from the doorway. Administrative release pending investigation. I'm confined to base. He didn't look up. Captain Vance said I should come see you. Why? To apologize. His voice cracked. To try to explain. He finally met her eyes. I don't know. To face what I did. Sage walked to her desk and sat down. I'm listening. I was following orders. The words came out defensive, automatic. Then his shoulders sagged. No, that's not enough. That's not even true. Then what is true? Jensen's hands trembled. I wanted to belong. Drake was the best instructor on base. Everybody looked up to him. And when he noticed me, when he started including me in things, I felt like I mattered. So you did what he asked. I did worse than that. I volunteered. His voice broke. He didn't tell me to follow you home. He didn't tell me to mock you in front of everyone. I did that on my own because I thought it would impress him. Sage let the silence stretch. When I saw that tattoo, Jensen shook his head. Everything I believed about myself fell apart. I thought I was tough. I thought I was a warrior. But you're the real thing, and I didn't even recognize it. I looked at you and saw nothing. That's the problem. I know. Do you? Sage leaned forward. Because here's what you don't understand. Even if I wasn't a SEAL, even if I was just a cafeteria worker with no training, no experience, no tattoos, what you did would still be wrong. Jensen's face crumpled. You didn't mistreat me because you thought I was weak. You mistreated me because you thought I didn't matter. And that says everything about who you are, not who I am. I know. God, I know. He buried his face in his hands. What do I do? How do I fix this? Sage was quiet for a long moment. You can't fix what you did to me. That's already done. But you can change who you become. She paused. Every day you get a choice. Be the person who tears others down or be the person who builds them up. Drake made his choice. What's yours? Jensen looked up. I want to be different. I just don't know how. Then learn. Watch the people you respect, the real ones, not the ones who make you feel powerful. Study what they do, how they treat others. And every time you're about to open your mouth, ask yourself, is this building or destroying, will that be enough? I don't know, but it's a start. Sage stood up. Now get out of my office. I have work to do. Jensen rose. At the door, he paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not because you're a SEAL. Because you're a person who didn't deserve what I did. That's the first smart thing you've said since you got here. He left without another word. Webb appeared in the doorway moments later. How'd that go? Ask me in 10 years, that's how long it'll take to know if he actually changes. Fair enough. Webb stepped inside. Captain Vance wants to see you. Her office. Now. Something in his tone made Sage's instincts prickle. What's going on? She didn't tell me, but she looked serious. He paused. More serious than usual. Sage found Vance standing at her window, back turned. Hands clasped behind her. Close the door. The lock clicked. The room suddenly felt smaller. What's wrong, Captain? Vance turned around. Her face was carved from stone, but something moved behind her eyes, something that looked almost like pain. Do you remember what I said about people watching, people waiting for you to be ready? Yes. They've decided you're ready. Vance picked up a folder from her desk, different from the instructor position folder. Thicker, sealed with red tape. 48 hours ago, an American journalist was captured in Somalia. Emma Chen, 26 years old. She has a 4-year-old daughter. Sage felt her stomach drop. She was covering the humanitarian crisis when her convoy was ambushed. Militia group called the Red Hand. They're demanding $15 million and the release of 6 prisoners from Guantanamo. Why are you telling me this? Vance set the folder down. Because we're mounting a rescue operation. Because the primary sniper assigned to the mission was injured in a training accident this morning. And because the insertion window closes in 72 hours. The words hit Sage like a physical blow. You want me to go back? I want you to save a woman's life. Vance's voice hardened. The shot is 1,400 meters. Through a 6-inch window, moving target, hostage situation. There are maybe 5 people in the entire military who can make that shot reliably. And I'm one of them. You're the best of them. Vance pushed the folder toward her. I wouldn't ask if there was any other way. Sage stared at the sealed file. 14 months of running. 14 months of hiding. And now this. I haven't fired a rifle since the demonstration. I haven't touched a scope since Yemen. I know. I see his face every time I close my eyes. I know that too. Vance's voice softened. But Emma Chen doesn't know any of that. Her daughter doesn't know. They just know that someone needs to pull a trigger, or a mother is never coming home. Sage's hands trembled. The Red Hand, she said slowly. That name, I know it. Vance's expression shifted. You should. They're an offshoot of the militia you faced in Yemen. Same leadership, same tactics. The same people who killed Thomas. Silence. Yes. Vance's voice was barely audible. The same people. Sage felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Her brother's killers. The ones who had taken everything from her. And now they had another innocent life in their hands. There's something else. Vance pulled a photograph from the folder. Our intelligence suggests the militia commander will be present at the compound. His name is Yosef al-Rashid. She placed the photo on the desk. Sage looked down and felt her heart stop. The face in the photograph. She knew it. She had seen it through her scope 14 months ago for just a moment before everything went wrong. "He's the one who ordered the mortar strike on your position," Vance said quietly. "He's the one who gave the order that killed Thomas." Sage couldn't breathe. "This mission is about saving Emma Chen," Vance continued. "That's the priority. That's the objective, but if the opportunity presents itself, you want me to kill him. I want to give you a choice." Vance met her eyes. "Justice or mercy, revenge or rescue. That's not my decision to make." Sage stared at the photograph. The face of the man who had destroyed her life. The man she had dreamed about killing for 14 months. "When do I leave?" "Transport departs at 1800 tomorrow. You have 24 hours to prepare." "And if I say no?" Vance was quiet for a long moment. "Then Emma Chen dies, and her daughter grows up without a mother. And the people who killed your brother go on killing." She paused. "But it's your choice. It's always been your choice." Sage picked up the photograph. Thomas's voice echoed in her memory. "The hardest shot isn't the one you take, it's the one you don't take. I'll need access to the armory, and a spotter I can trust." "Done. Anyone you want." Sage thought for a moment. "Webb. Master Chief Webb." Vance nodded. "I'll make the call." "Captain." Sage looked up. "If I do this, if I go back, I don't know who I'll be when it's over. None of us ever do." Vance walked to the door. "That's what makes us human." She left Sage alone with the photograph. Webb found her in the armory 3 hours later. She stood in front of the weapons rack staring at the rifle she'd been issued for the mission. Her hands hung at her sides. She hadn't touched it yet. "Captain Vance told me." He walked to stand beside her. "I said yes before she finished the sentence." "You don't have to do this. Neither do you." He paused. "But we both will." "Why? Because someone's life is on the line. Because that's what operators do." He turned to face her. "And because Thomas would have gone, without hesitation, without question." Sage's composure cracked. "Don't. Don't what? Tell the truth." Webb's voice was gentle but firm. "You've been carrying his memory like a wound for 14 months. Maybe it's time to carry it like a banner instead." "How?" "By being who he taught you to be. By finishing what he started." Webb reached out and took the rifle from the rack. He held it out to her. "This weapon doesn't pull its own trigger. Someone has to choose. Someone has to decide that a life is worth saving even at the cost of their own peace." Sage stared at the rifle. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. It's when you stop being scared that you make mistakes. What if I can't make the shot? What if I freeze?" "Then Emma Chen dies." Webb's voice was matter-of-fact. "But you won't freeze. You've never frozen when it mattered. That's why they called you." Sage reached out slowly. Her fingers touched the cold metal of the rifle. And something shifted inside her. Not the broken thing she'd been carrying. Something older. Something stronger. "Thomas used to say that warriors don't choose their battles," she said quietly. "Battles choose them." "Smart man." "He was." She lifted the rifle, feeling its weight, its balance, its familiar, deadly potential. "He was the smartest person I ever knew." "Then honor him." Webb stepped back. "Save this woman's life. Stop the people who killed your brother. And when it's done, come home and teach the next generation what you've learned." Sage met his eyes. And if I don't come home, then I'll make sure everyone knows who you were. His voice was thick. And what you sacrificed. She nodded once. Then she began to prepare. 24 hours until transport. 1,400 meters to the target, one shot to save a life. And somewhere in that equation, the answer to a question she'd been running from for 14 months. Could she pull the trigger? Could she become Phoenix again? Only one way to find out. The helicopter cut through the darkness like a blade. Sage sat with her rifle across her knees, her eyes closed, her breathing measured. 14 months since she'd been in a bird heading toward a mission. 14 months since she'd felt the familiar vibration of rotors thrumming through her bones. It felt like coming home to a house that had burned down. Webb sat beside her, checking his equipment for the third time. 2 other operators filled the remaining seats. Ghost and Wraith call signs, only faces she didn't recognize. Black Ops personnel pulled from units that didn't officially exist. 30 minutes to insertion. The pilot's voice crackled through their headsets. Sage opened her eyes. You ready for this? Webb asked. No. Good. Honest answer. He finished his equipment check. Remember the mission parameters. Emma Chen is the priority. Everything else is secondary. And Al-Rashid, Webb was quiet for a moment. If the opportunity presents itself, but not at the cost of the primary objective. Sage nodded. She'd been telling herself the same thing for the past 24 hours. Save the hostage first. Justice could wait. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Thomas falling. Phoenix, Ghost's voice cut through her thoughts. Intel update. The compound is more heavily guarded than expected. 20+ hostiles. They've moved the hostage to the 2nd floor northwest corner. Window access. 1 window, 6 inches, facing east. 1,400 meters, 6-inch window, moving target. And Al-Rashid, confirmed present, ground floor south wing. He's running the show personally. Sage felt her pulse quicken. Her brother's killer, right there, within reach. 10 minutes to insertion, the pilot announced. Webb put a hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens down there, I've got your back. Just like Thomas would have. Don't compare yourself to him. I'm not. Nobody could be Thomas. His voice softened. But I can be here. I can be your spotter. I can help you finish what he started. Sage looked at her rifle. The weight of it. The promise of it. He used to tell me that the trigger is just a mechanism. The real weapon is the person holding it. She met Webb's eyes. I haven't been a weapon in 14 months. I've been a ghost. Ghosts can't save lives. Warriors can. Webb released her shoulder. Time to choose which one you want to be. The helicopter touched down in a dry riverbed 12 kilometers from the target. Sage was out before the skids fully settled, her boots hitting sand, her body moving on autopilot through patterns drilled into muscle memory. Ghost and Wraith fanned out, securing the perimeter. Webb fell into step beside her. 12 clicks. We need to be in position before dawn. Sage nodded and started moving. The terrain was brutal. Rocky, uneven, studded with obstacles that could break an ankle or alert an enemy patrol. She navigated it with the instincts of a predator, her senses expanding outward, cataloging every shadow, every sound. 2 hours in, Ghost raised a fist. Everyone froze. Patrol. 400 meters. Moving east. Sage sank into the ground, her breathing slowing to almost nothing. She watched the distant shapes through her scope. 4 men armed, sweeping the area in a loose formation. They're sloppy, Wraith observed. Wide spacing. Poor discipline. That's what 14 months of no opposition does, Webb replied. They've gotten comfortable. The patrol passed without incident. The team continued. At 0300, they reached the overwatch position, a rocky outcrop with clear sight lines to the compound below. Sage settled into her shooting position, adjusting for elevation wind humidity. "I have eyes on the target building," she reported. "Northwest corner, second floor. Window is visible." "Any movement?" She scanned slowly, methodically. "Guard on the roof. 2 more at the main entrance. No visual on the hostage." Thermal shows 1 figure in the northwest room, seated, not moving. Emma Chen, waiting to die, or waiting to be saved. Al-Rashid, Ghost, checked his tablet. "Ground floor south wing, multiple heat signatures around him. Looks like a command center." Sage's crosshairs drifted toward the south wing. Through the windows she could see figures moving. One of them was him, the man who had given the order. "Phoenix," Webb's voice was sharp. "Primary objective." She forced herself to look away. Back to the northwest corner. Back to Emma Chen. "How long until the assault team is in position?" 20 minutes. They're approaching from the west." Extraction. "Bird is on standby. 5 minutes out when we call." Sage settled deeper into her position. Her finger rested along the trigger guard. Her breathing steadied into the familiar rhythm in out pause. "Phoenix, we have movement." The window. A figure appeared male-armed, looking out at the darkness. Behind him, another shape. Smaller. Feminine. Emma Chen. "Hostage confirmed," Sage reported. "She's alive. Guard is with her." "Can you take the shot?" Sage calculated. The guard was positioned between her and Emma. If she fired now, the bullet might pass through him and hit the hostage. Too risky. "Negative. Need him to move." "Assault team is in position. On your command." Sage watched the window. Waited. Her muscles screamed from holding the position, but she didn't move. Didn't breathe. The guard turned, stepped to the side. Emma Chen was visible now, sitting in a chair, hands bound. "I have a shot." "Take it." Her finger moved to the trigger. The crosshairs centered on the guard's head, and Thomas's face flashed in her mind. The mortar, the shrapnel, his body falling, the sound he made when he hit the ground. Her hands began to shake. "Phoenix, Phoenix, do you copy?" She couldn't breathe. The rifle felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her vision blurred. "I can't." The words came out as a whisper. "I can't do it. Phoenix, the assault team is waiting. If you don't take this shot, I know." Her voice cracked. "I know what happens. I see him. Every time I try, I see him." Webb's hand touched her shoulder. "Then don't see him. See her." Sage blinked. "What? Thomas is gone. Nothing you do will bring him back. But Emma Chen is right there, right now, waiting for someone to save her." His voice was fierce. "Her daughter is 4 years old." 4. She's waiting for her mother to come home." Sage stared through the scope at the woman in the chair. Bruised, terrified, but alive. "Thomas didn't die so you could save him," Webb continued. "He died so you could save others. That's what he taught you. That's why he made you into who you are." The words cut through the fog in Sage's mind. "He used to say," she swallowed hard. "He used to say that every life has equal weight, that when you look through the scope, you're not just deciding who dies, you're deciding who lives. Then decide. Right now. Who lives tonight?" Sage's breathing steadied. Her hands stopped shaking. She looked through the scope. Not at the guard. At Emma Chen. A mother. A daughter. A woman who had done nothing except try to tell the truth about people who were suffering. Phoenix, the guard is moving again. Window is closing. Sage's finger touched the trigger. I'm sorry, Thomas, she whispered. But I have to let you go. She fired. The guard dropped. Clean hit. Through the temple. Target down, assault team, go, go, go! Chaos erupted below. Gunfire. Explosions. The assault team breaching the compound. Sage kept her eye pressed to the scope, tracking, covering, eliminating threats as they emerged. Hostile on the roof. She fired. Down. 2 more at the east entrance. She fired twice. Both down. They're inside first floor secured. Sage's hands moved with mechanical precision. Every shot counted. Every trigger pull saved a life. Second floor. They've got the hostage. She watched through the scope as the assault team kicked in the door. Emma Chen screamed. One of the militants grabbed her, using her as a shield. I have a shot, Sage said, but it's tight. 3 inches. Can you make it? 3 inches. Through the gap between Emma's head and the militant's face, at 1,400 meters, in low light, with a woman's life hanging in the balance. I can make it. Then take it. Sage breathed in, breathed out, found the stillness between heartbeats, and fired. The militant's head snapped back. He dropped. Emma Chen collapsed, screaming but alive. Untouched. Hostage secured, moving to extraction. Sage sagged against her rifle. Her arms were trembling, her heart was pounding, but Emma Chen was alive. Nice shooting, Phoenix. Ghost's voice held something that might have been awe. That was impossible. Nothing's impossible, just improbable. Assault team is extracting with the hostage. Bird is inbound. Sage started to pull back from her position. Then she saw him. Through the scope, ground floor, south wing, Yosef al-Rashid, running toward a vehicle. Escaping. Her crosshairs found him automatically. Tracked him. Centered on the back of his head. Phoenix, Webb's voice was urgent. Mission is complete. We need to move. I have him. I know, but the mission is complete. Emma Chen is safe. He killed Thomas. I know. Sage watched al-Rashid through the scope. He was almost to the vehicle. 10 more seconds and he'd be gone. Another escape. Another chance for him to kill someone else's brother. The shot is mine, she said. It's always been yours. But think about what Thomas would want. Sage's finger rested on the trigger. The weight of 14 months pressed down on her. Every sleepless night. Every nightmare. Every morning she'd woken up and wished she hadn't. One squeeze. That's all it would take. Justice. Revenge. An ending. But Thomas's voice echoed in her mind. The hardest shot isn't the one you take. It's the one you don't take. He doesn't get to decide who I become, Sage whispered. What, al-Rashid? He killed my brother. He took everything from me. But he doesn't get to decide who I am. She lifted her eye from the scope. I do. She lowered the rifle. Al-Rashid disappeared into the vehicle. The engine roared. He was gone. Phoenix. Mission complete. Her voice was steady. Let's go home. Webb stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Copy that. Moving to extraction. They ran. The helicopter was waiting at the extraction point, rotors spinning, door open. Sage threw herself inside Webb, right behind her. Ghost and Wraith were already aboard, along with the assault team. And Emma Chen. The journalist sat wrapped in a blanket, shaking, tears streaming down her face. When she saw Sage, she reached out with trembling hands. They told me. They told me who made the shot." Her voice was barely audible over the rotor noise. "You saved my life." Sage took her hands. "You would have done the same." "I don't know how to thank you. I don't know how to—" "Go home to your daughter. That's thanks enough." Emma broke down, sobbing. Sage held her as the helicopter lifted off, as the compound shrank below them, as Somalia disappeared into the darkness. Somewhere down there, Al-Rashid was escaping, planning his next atrocity, plotting his next murder. But Sage had made her choice, and for the first time in 14 months, she felt peace. Webb sat down beside her as Emma finally fell asleep. "You let him go." "I know. He might hurt someone else. He might." Sage looked out at the stars. "But killing him wouldn't bring Thomas back. It wouldn't heal what's broken inside me. It would just make me into someone he wouldn't recognize." "Who?" "My brother." She turned to face Webb. "Thomas didn't teach me to kill. He taught me to protect. There's a difference." Webb was quiet for a long moment. "You know, when I first saw you in that cafeteria, I thought something was off. I couldn't figure out what." He shook his head. "Now I know. You weren't hiding because you were weak. You were hiding because you were too strong, and you were afraid of what that strength could do. I was afraid of who I might become if I let it out. And now—" Sage looked down at her rifle. The weapon that had saved Emma Chen's life. The weapon that could have taken Al-Rashid's. "Now I know that strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you choose to protect, and who you choose to become." The helicopter flew on through the darkness, toward home, toward healing, toward a future she was finally ready to face. Fort Liberty was quiet when they landed. 400. The base sleeping. But Captain Vance was waiting on the tarmac, flanked by a medical team that whisked Emma Chen away to the hospital. Sage walked down the ramp on legs that felt like rubber. The adrenaline was fading. Reality was settling in. She had done it. She had pulled the trigger. She had saved a life. And she had let her brother's killer escape. "Senior Chief Hartley." Vance stepped forward. "Welcome home." "Captain. The shot on the hostage-taker. 1,400 meters. 3-inch window." Vance's voice held something that might have been wonder. "They're already calling it the greatest shot in SEAL history." "It was just geometry." "It was more than that." Vance paused. "I heard you had Al-Rashid in your sights." "I did." "And you didn't take the shot." "No, ma'am, I didn't." Vance studied her for a long moment. "Why?" Sage thought about the question, about all the answers she could give, about the one that mattered. "Because my brother didn't raise a murderer. He raised a protector." She met Vance's eyes. "The mission was to save Emma Chen. I saved her. Everything else was a distraction." Vance nodded slowly. "The instructor position. It's still available." Sage looked back at the helicopter, at Webb climbing down the ramp, at the rifle still in her hands. "I know. Have you made a decision?" Sage thought about Rodriguez struggling at the firing line until someone showed her how to stand. About Jensen broken and searching for a way to become better. About all the young operators who would come through this base looking for someone to teach them what real strength meant. "Yes, ma'am, I have. And I'll take the job." Sage squared her shoulders. "On one condition." "Name it." "I want to redesign the curriculum, not just marksmanship, character, discipline, the difference between killing and protecting." She paused. We've been teaching these kids how to be weapons. I want to teach them how to be warriors." Vance's face broke into a rare smile. "That's exactly what this program needs." "Then we have a deal." They shook hands. "One more thing," Vance said. "Al-Rashid. He won't escape forever. Intelligence is already tracking his movements. When the time comes, I'll be ready." Sage looked toward the rising sun. "But not for revenge. For justice. There's a difference." "Yes, there is." Vance stepped back. "Get some rest, Senior Chief. You've earned it." She walked away. Sage stood alone on the tarmac, watching the sky lighten. Dawn was coming. A new day. A new beginning. Webb appeared beside her. "Hell of a night." "Hell of a night. What now?" Sage thought about the question. About everything she'd lost. Everything she'd found. Everything she was becoming. "Now I teach. I heal. I honor my brother's memory by being the person he believed I could be." She turned to face Webb. "And when they come for Al-Rashid, when justice finally catches up with him, I'll be there. Not as a weapon, as a warrior. And until then I stop running. I stop hiding." She took a deep breath of the morning air. "I start living." Webb smiled. "Thomas would be proud." "I know." Sage felt tears prick at her eyes. That's what finally makes it bearable. They walked together toward the base. Behind them, the sun rose over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And somewhere in the quiet place where memory and hope intersected, Sage heard her brother's voice one final time. "The hardest shot isn't the one you take, it's the one you don't take. But the shot that matters most, that's the one that saves a life." She had taken that shot. She had chosen protection over vengeance. She had become the warrior he always knew she could be. 6 months later, Rodriguez graduated at the top of her class. Sage was there to pin on her insignia. "You taught me something," Rodriguez said, tears streaming down her face. "That day at the firing line, you taught me that strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about getting up every time you fall. You taught yourself. I just showed you how to stand." "Same thing." They embraced. Around them, a new class of candidates watched. Young faces, hungry eyes. The next generation of warriors waiting to learn what Sage had spent a lifetime discovering. She stepped to the podium. "You're here because you want to serve. You want to protect. You want to matter." Her voice carried across the assembly. "But let me tell you something they won't put in any manual. The uniform doesn't make you a warrior. The training doesn't make you a warrior. The trigger doesn't make you a warrior." She paused. "What makes you a warrior is the choice you make in the moment when everything is on the line. The choice to protect instead of destroy. To save instead of kill. To be more than a weapon." She looked out at the faces watching her. "My brother taught me that. He died teaching me that. And now I'm going to teach it to you." She stepped back from the podium. Webb was waiting. "Good speech. Thomas wrote most of it, years ago." Sage smiled. "I'm just finally ready to deliver it." They walked together through the base that had tried to break her, the base that had revealed her, the base that had become her home. In her pocket, her phone buzzed. A message from Vance. "Intelligence located Al-Rashid. Mission briefing at 0800 tomorrow. You're invited." Sage read the message. Read it again. Then she typed her response. "I'll be there." She put the phone away. Justice would come. in time, on her terms. But today she had students to teach, lives to shape, a legacy to build. The sun was high overhead. The future was waiting. And Senior Chief Sage Hartley, Phoenix warrior, teacher, protector, was finally ready to meet it. She had been invisible once. Never again.